Seeing his ex-wife in his boss's office, Oleg turned green with envy. This can't be true. That loser couldn't have pulled something like this off, but the biggest surprise was waiting for him ahead. Oleg Nikitin walked through the spacious office, occasionally reflecting in the glass partitions. His new suit fit perfectly, highlighting his athletic build. 45, the prime age for a man, especially someone like him, the head of the logistics department at a large trading company, Transflow. Veronica, the man stopped by the secretary's desk. Did Stepan Arkadyevich call for me? Yes, Oleg Vitalyevich, the girl lifted her eyes from the monitor. He asked you to come in as soon as you arrive. They won't even let me have a coffee, Oleg grumbled, but immediately changed his tone. Or maybe I can get a cup from you at least? The manager gave a playful wink. Veronica blushed. Her reaction was always predictable. Of course, I'll bring it in 5 minutes. That's why I adore you, the man smiled and headed toward the director's office. He was sure Stepan wanted to congratulate him on the successful launch of a new route to Siberia. Maybe even award him a bonus. With these pleasant thoughts, Oleg knocked on the door. Come in, a commanding voice responded. Stepan Arkadyevich was sitting behind a massive oak desk, studying some documents. His usually relaxed face looked tense. Have a seat, Oleg. Something in the boss's tone immediately put him on edge. There was no usual friendliness in it. Did something happen? It did. The manager put the papers aside. We're in a crisis, Oleg. For the past 6 months we've been in the red. We tried to recover through sales, but it didn't work. A cold sweat ran through the man. Stepan Arkadyevich, my department is working perfectly. We're cutting costs, optimizing everything. I know, the director interrupted. Your department is one of the best, but the problem is complex. There was a knock at the door. Veronica brought in coffee. Oleg mechanically took the cup, but his hands were shaking so badly he was afraid of spilling his favorite drink. We'll have to cut staff, Stepan continued. The company owner has already made the decision. But you won't be the one handling it. Neither will I. The owner has hired a specialist, a project HR manager, to get us out of the crisis. The man immediately pressed a button on his phone. Veronica, please invite Olga Sergeyevna. Oleg took a sip of coffee, burning himself. The name felt painfully familiar. The door opened, and the world around Oleg shook. On the threshold stood Olga. His Olga, the ex-wife he had divorced 3 years ago. This simply couldn't be real. But she was completely different from the woman he remembered. Before him stood an elegant woman in a flawless burgundy suit, with a perfect haircut and confident posture. Nothing like the exhausted wife who always wore stretched sweaters and complained about being tired. Hello, Stepan Arkadyevich. Her voice sounded both melodic and authoritative. Olga Sergeyevna, allow me to introduce Oleg Vitalyevich. She raised an eyebrow. We know each other. The man looked at them in confusion. Well, that changes things. Oleg, Olga Sergeyevna will be handling the optimization of all departments. You will work directly with her. All her recommendations are final until the company gets out of the crisis. Olga gave her ex-husband a cold, assessing look. Oleg Vitalyevich, I expect you in my office in 10 minutes. I need to review your team's performance reports. She turned and left, leaving behind a trail of expensive perfume. You all right? Stepan asked, noticing the pallor on his subordinate's face. You look like you've seen a ghost. Almost, Oleg rasped. Stepan Arkadyevich, that's my ex-wife. The director whistled. Now that's a twist. But she's a top-class professional. The owner personally chose her. I hope your personal history won't interfere with work. Of course not, Oleg lied. The office assigned to Olga was at the end of the corridor. Small, but with an excellent view of the city. The man knocked and entered without waiting for permission. His ex-wife was studying something on her laptop. When he entered, she didn't look up, only gestured toward the chair opposite her. Take a seat, Oleg smirked, closing the door. Have we really become that much of strangers? How else do you expect me to address employees? The woman finally looked at him. That gaze made him shrink inwardly. Oleg carefully studied his newly appointed boss. Perfectly styled hair that she used to wear in a messy ponytail, elegant earrings emphasizing her slender neck. Even her manner had changed, more confident, more commanding. You look incredible. I wouldn't have recognized you if I saw you on the street. Thank you for the compliment. Now, about work. I need all logistics reports for the past year and a list of employees with performance metrics. Seriously? Oleg leaned forward. We haven't seen each other in 3 years, and you're talking about work? What else should we talk about? For example, how we could try everything again. He gave her his signature smile. Looking at you now, I'd give anything to start over. Olga didn't even spare him a glance. Oleg Vitalyevich, I strongly advise you to return to work matters. Come on, OL, we're not strangers. We had good times together, remember? He tried to take her hand, but the woman sharply pulled it away. Good times. Now her voice sounded dangerously quiet. Olga leaned back in her chair. She looked at her ex-husband like he was an annoying insect. Good times, you mean when you called me a fat cow? Or when you came home drunk from your latest mistress and bragged about how amazing she was in bed? Or maybe when you kicked me out with just one suitcase and said I could forget about our apartment because you earned everything yourself? The man turned pale, but then his face flushed with anger. Don't exaggerate. Yes, we had problems, but I'm not some monster. No. Her laugh was completely cold and sharp. Oleg, you're a small, insignificant man with delusions of grandeur. You're just lucky you have talent in logistics. In everything else, you're empty. Do you hear yourself? The man snapped, clenching his fists. I get it now. You did this on purpose, right? You tracked me down, found out where I work, and decided to take revenge. Do you really think the whole world revolves around you? How naive. I didn't even know you worked here until I saw the list of executives. You're lying. He stepped closer, leaning over the desk. I can feel it. You couldn't forget me. You're just trying to raise your value. Before Olga could react, he walked around the desk and turned her chair toward him. Admit it. You missed me. His hands landed on her shoulders. At the same second, he leaned in, trying to kiss her. The woman pulled away and stood up sharply, ending up in dangerous proximity to her ex-husband. You haven't changed. Still convinced every woman melts from one look of yours. And don't they? He smirked. I can see how you look at me. Deep down, you regret the divorce. No, Olga cut him off coldly. You're not my type. I don't like men who are attracted to rich older women, the same ones you cheated on me with. They were all what, 20 years older than me? With status, money. Oleg went pale with rage. You just do your job, Nikitin. Her tone turned official again. I expect your reports tomorrow by 9 a.m. And keep your hands to yourself, otherwise your next conversation will be with the legal department. She sat back down and returned to her laptop, deliberately ignoring his presence. Oleg turned and stormed out of the office, nearly knocking over a passing employee. He was furious. How dare she speak to him like that? Who did she think she was? Back in his office, he slammed the door so hard the glass panes shook. His assistant Marina looked up in fear. Oleg Vitalyevich, is everything okay? No, damn it, nothing is okay. The next 2 weeks turned into a real hell. Oleg did everything to make Olga's life harder. He sent reports with mistakes, arrived late to meetings, sabotaged her proposals in front of other managers. Olga Sergeyevna suggests cutting routes, he said at a general meeting. But that will destroy the company. Who will trust a carrier that only operates on profitable directions? The woman calmly responded. Temporary measures for getting out of the crisis. The numbers speak for themselves. Some routes only generate losses. Numbers can be interpreted differently. Oleg didn't give up. Our clients value a comprehensive approach. If we drop routes, we lose loyalty. After every meeting, Stepan Arkadyevich looked at Oleg with a frown. Once he even pulled him aside. What's going on? You seem to be opposing her on purpose. I'm defending the company's interests, the man shrugged. Isn't that why I was hired? But sabotage wasn't his only battle. The other was more personal. He never missed a chance to provoke his ex-wife. Let's have dinner tonight, he stopped her in the hallway. Discuss your ridiculous ideas in a more informal setting. No, the answer was always short. Afraid you won't resist my charm? She just shook her head and walked away. Once Oleg entered her office without knocking. Listen, this is ridiculous. We're adults. Let's just talk. About what? She didn't even look at him. How you humiliate me in front of colleagues. Oleg, you're doing everything to get me fired. But you won't succeed. I'm just protecting the company from your insane ideas. And by the way, sweetheart, remember, I won't get fired either. Even if I destroy your perfect scheme, I'm in the top 3 employees, always hit targets, and work more efficiently than anyone. Want to bet? I'm afraid this won't end well. For whom of us? At that moment, Oleg noticed Olga looking at him strangely. Something victorious flashed in her eyes. He ignored it. A big mistake. A few days later, everything changed. The woman was no longer irritated by his behavior. Instead, she started flirting. At meetings, she sat opposite him, crossing her legs in a way that made her skirt rise slightly above her knee. During his presentations, she absent-mindedly bit the end of her pen, watching him through lowered lashes. When passing documents, she accidentally touched his hand. Oleg was confused. What game was she playing? Everything became clear on Friday, when she arrived at the office in a tight dress with a deep neckline. All the men turned to look at her. Oleg couldn't focus all day, imagining tearing that dress off her. After work, he waited until everyone left and rushed into her office. You're teasing me on purpose, he said hoarsely. Olga slowly raised her eyes from the papers. What are you talking about? You know exactly what. This dress. You wore it for me, admit it. What arrogance, she smiled mockingly. Maybe I just like dressing nicely? I don't believe it. He leaned on her desk. You want me back, but your pride won't let you admit it. Olga stood up, now face to face with him. And if that's true? She tilted her head slightly, looking him straight in the eyes. Oleg couldn't resist anymore and pulled her toward him, grabbing her waist. Their lips met in a hungry kiss. She didn't resist. She even responded, then suddenly pushed him away. Have you completely lost your mind? That's harassment. But you were. I what? She quickly fixed her dress. I was just talking to a colleague. And you attacked me like an animal. Oleg stood frozen, confused. Get out of my office. Immediately. He left, slamming the door. What the hell was that? She was clearly seducing him, and now acting offended? All weekend Oleg couldn't calm down. By Monday, he was ready to apologize. But he didn't get the chance. At 9 a.m., he was called not by Stepan Arkadyevich, but by the owner of the company himself, Igor Maximovich Derzhavin. Oleg had never met him personally before. An older but strong man with a piercing gaze greeted him with a short nod. Nikitin, sit down. He pointed to the chair. Do you know why I called you? No, Igor Maximovich, Oleg tensed. You are fired, Derzhavin said calmly. What? Oleg thought he misheard. But why? My department is the best in the company. I always meet targets. I don't care about all that, the owner cut him off. When it comes to personal boundaries, I will not tolerate it. I can overlook many things, but I will never allow employees to harass my fiancé. Your, who? My fiancé, Derzhavin repeated. Olga Sergeyevna. But this is a misunderstanding. She. His voice turned icy. Oleg realized he had fallen into a trap he would never get out of. You are fired under the article, the boss continued. You have 1 hour to collect your things and leave the building. Oleg left the owner's office on shaky legs. His head was ringing, dark circles flashing before his eyes. How could this have happened? Just on Friday he had been an irreplaceable employee, and today he was fired with cause. The corridor leading to his office felt endless. Employees he passed avoided his eyes. So everyone already knows. News in an office spreads faster than wildfire. Oleg Vitalyevich. His assistant Marina stood up from her desk as he entered. Don't, he interrupted. Just bring me a box for my things. The girl silently nodded and left. Oleg sank into his chair, trying to gather his thoughts. The boss's fiancée. Olga? How is that even possible? He must be at least 60, and she's 35. A wave of anger washed over him. He needed to talk to her. He needed to tell her everything he thought about her. Oleg quickly packed his personal belongings into a box, photos, awards, corporate souvenirs, things he had collected for years. Everything he had achieved. Everything he was proud of, collapsed in a single moment. Thank you for everything, Marina, he said on the way out. You're a great employee. Good luck. The girl only nodded, tears shining in her eyes. Oleg walked the familiar path to Olga's office without looking back. He knew she was there. He knew she was waiting for him, probably ready to enjoy her victory. He burst into the office without knocking. His ex-wife was sitting at her desk, calmly reviewing documents. At his entrance, she only slightly raised an eyebrow. Oh, Nikitin. I was expecting you. She leaned back in her chair. Sit down? Oleg was choking with rage. You planned all of this from the beginning. What are you talking about? She asked innocently, but her eyes remained cold. The boss's fiancé. Seriously? You sold yourself to that old man? And all this, your flirting, your dress, it was all a trap. Olga slowly stood up, walked around the desk, and stopped right in front of him. You know, I wasn't planning to touch you at all. When I found out you worked here, I didn't care. You stopped existing for me a long time ago. You're lying. No, Oleg, she said calmly. But when you started sabotaging my orders and humiliating me in front of employees, I realized you hadn't changed. Still the same small, self-obsessed tyrant. She stepped closer, looking him straight in the eyes. And then I decided to remove you. As a professional, I couldn't. You're right, you are a good logistics specialist. But I knew your weakness. Your oversized ego. I knew you wouldn't resist if I started provoking you. He clenched his fists but stayed silent. Yes, she admitted coldly. I deliberately seduced you. Olga smirked. And like a fool, you fell for it. Exactly as expected. Derzhavin, you're really going to marry him? Why not? He respects me. He values my opinion. He never humiliates me. And yes, he's rich, but unlike you, he doesn't throw every ruble in my face. Oleg felt something tighten in his chest. Not jealousy. Humiliation. So all of this was revenge for our marriage? No, she shook her head. Revenge implies emotional involvement. You stopped meaning anything to me a long time ago. This was a business decision. You were interfering with work. I removed you, cleanly and efficiently. You snake, Oleg exhaled. Thank you for the compliment. You have 30 minutes to leave the building. I don't want to call security. She returned to her desk, deliberately ignoring him. Oleg stood there, gripping the box so tightly his fingers hurt. He wanted to shout something, slam the door, but instead, he simply turned and walked out. Outside the company building, he stopped and looked back at the glass facade. Somewhere up there, on the 7th floor, Olga was probably celebrating her victory. Who would have thought, the woman he once considered weak and completely dependent on him had completely destroyed him? A bitter irony twisted inside him. All their married life, he had looked down on her, treated her like an extension of himself. And all this time, she had been smarter. Stronger. She just hid it. Now she had shown her true face. The sun was bright and blinding. Oleg placed the box on the ground and took out his phone. There would be many calls to recruiters, old contacts, maybe even competitors of Transflow. He would start over. And maybe next time, when fate crossed him with Olga again, he would be worthy competition. For now, he just needed to move forward. Because life doesn't end with one defeat, even one this crushing. He picked up the box and walked toward his car, leaving an entire chapter of his life behind.